So the full set list for Japan's next set, Storm Emeralda, is here. This set will be releasing at the end of the week in Japan, and for us this will be our final set of the year, releasing at the beginning of November, with the name Delta Rain, I believe, if my memory serves me correctly, with the cover card being, of course, another fan favourite, that being Mega Rayquaza. So in this video we'll be going over all the noteworthy cards from this set. If there's anything that I miss or anything that you feel I should have talked about, do let me know in the comments, and let me know in the comments what you think about this set in general. So we're actually going to start off with a couple of cards because they all fit in the same theme, and we actually had one of these cards in the previous set, Pitch Black, that means Sizzlipede, with the Bug Out attack, and we now have two more cards with that attack, those being Masquerain and Combee. The Bug Out attack reads: reveal the bottom 7 cards of your deck, and this attack does 50 damage for each Pokemon you revealed that has the Bug Out attack. Then shuffle any revealed Pokemon back into the deck, but discard the other cards. This attack does seem pretty decent. If you're able to find a couple of Pokemon there, then you can deal a whole bunch of damage, but at the cost of discarding any other cards you find. So if you find some supporters, items, tools, stadiums, energy, they just go straight into the discard. And if you reveal the bottom 7 and don't find any Pokemon, then you're basically milling yourself for 7 cards. And at the moment, we only have these 3 Pokemon. And with Combee and Sizzlipede, it requires 3 colourless, but with Masquerain it only requires 1 grass, which I guess this is the main Pokemon that you're supposed to be using the attack with. It is on stage 1, so you will have to put Surskit into play, and Surskit itself doesn't have the Bug Out attack, so it's mainly just there to evolve into Masquerain. I mean, the deck could be good if we get more names of more Pokemon that use Bug Out, but for now we only have these 3, so I'd think the archetype just needs a little bit more support, and then it could possibly be good, because I guess you could attack with the Sizzlipede as well for some fire coverage, but you have grass coverage, and there are quite a few decks in the format weak to grass, so it does have that advantage. Next up, Mega Golisopod EX with its finishing blow. For 1 grass, does 60 damage, and this attack does 160 more damage if your opponent's active Pokemon has any damage counters on it. Pretty strong. Even if you're just using Finishing Blow and dealing 60, next turn you're doing 220 damage. That's pretty decent for 1 energy, and grass is a type that can get accelerated very, very quickly. We have stuff like Forest of Vitality, we have stuff like Ogerpon with Venusaur to move energy around and all that kind of stuff. It's just a very strong type altogether that you can bench it. What is it? What's the pre-evolution? Wimpod, and then you can evolve immediately into a Golisopod. I think second attack requires 3 colours, does 160 damage, and during your opponent's next turn, the defending Pokemon can't retreat. So you also have a retreat lock, and again, grass has very easy ways of accelerating a lot of energy into play, and all that kind of stuff. It's a pretty decent card and could be splashed inside of grass decks. It's a very strong attacker and also a lockdown type Pokemon. Next up is a duo, that being Magmortar and Electivire. The reason being is Magmortar has the Buddy Boost ability. Once during your turn, you may attach a basic fire and lightning energy from your hand to your Magmortar, or Electivire in any way you like. Magmortar's attack for 2 fire and a colours does 80 damage, but Electivire's attacks are a little bit better. Body Slam for 2 colours does 30 damage, flip a coin if heads, your opponent's active Pokemon is now paralysed, and then Voltage Hammer for 2 lightning and 2 colours. Discard any number of basic energies from this Pokemon, and it does 60 damage for each energy you discarded in this way. So that's pretty good if you're able to use a couple of Magmortars, because it's not once per turn, so if you have multiple, you can do it multiple times for each one, slap a bunch of energy on your Electivire, and then discard it all to do a whole bunch of damage. And the only problem being is you need those energies in your hand, and we do have stuff like Fire Breather, which can search for 7 fire energies, but we also do have a new card in this set that lets you search lightning and fire energies, that being Adventuring Lantern. Search your deck for a basic fire and a basic lightning energy, and put them into your hand. So it's just an easy way to search out those lightning and fire energies, plus we also do have other Electivires in the format, such as Electivire EX from Destined Rivals. With its dual bolt for a lightning and a colourless, it does 50 damage to 2 of your opponent's benched Pokemon, but it also has high voltage press for 2 lightning and 1 colourless, does 180 damage, and if this Pokemon has 2 extra energy attached, so 5 in total, it does an extra 100 damage for 280 damage. It's actually pretty decent, and with Magmortar, or with a Magmortar or 2, you can very easily get this powered up. Use an Adventuring Lantern or 2 to search out your energies, attach them, and then use your manual attachment for turn, and you're already like halfway there. If you have 2 Magmortars, use both of them, use your manual attach for turn, and now you're hitting for 280 damage. It seems like a pretty decent combination, but we'll have to wait if it sees play and if we get any other Magmortars or Electivires in future sets, see if they can be splashed in, or see if we can create different, toolbox type Electivire and Magmortar decks. Next up, Heat Rotom EX with its Reheat for 2 colorless. This attack does 30 damage for each basic fire energy in your discard pile, then shuffle those energies into the deck. I guess we have stuff like Mega Charizard X from Phantasmal Flames. I believe that discards for its attack. So you could bring in a Heat Rotom and then, hit for a bunch of damage, shuffle all those energies back into the deck, so you can use them again with Charizard, I suppose. Seems pretty decent. And it also has Strong Flare for 2 fire and a colorless, does 170 damage and discard 2 energy from this Pokemon, so I guess you could use that one as well. And with stuff like Oricorio EX, you can very easily just slap a whole bunch of energy onto anything you want, very easily get 2 fire energies onto this, and use the Reheat. Seems pretty okay, though Mega Charizard X isn't really seeing a whole bunch of play. I don't think this thing could see play inside of Ceruledge, because Ceruledge mainly uses fighting energies for the discard, and you only play a couple of fire energies to actually attach onto your Ceruledges. But it's okay if there's any decks that come up that like to discard a whole bunch of fire energy or anything like that. Next up is another duo, that being Kyogre and Groudon, purely because their attacks give an additional buff if you have a legendary stadium in play. These are the new dual stadiums that we are seeing in this set. And we might as well talk about them first because there is 3 of them to go over. So these stadiums can only be put into play if you have both halves. They are stadiums that require 2 cards in order to be put into play. Keep in mind these cards have the same name, so you can't play 4 of each one, you could only play like 2 of one half and 2 of the other half. The first one we have is Legendary Ocean Trench. When a Pokemon in play is healed, both yours and your opponent's, double the amount of healing done, or double the amount of damage healed basically. So if you use any form of healing card, like for example Jumbo Ice Cream or Pokemon Center Lady, basically double the amount of healing that you do, which could be good for some decks. You can get a massive heal and get your Pokemon out of range of a one-hit KO and all that kind of stuff. But the downside with these stadiums is that you need 2 cards, and you can easily get rid of it with just one other stadium. They seem good, but they require like a little bit too much setup. The other 2 stadiums are a bit better with Legendary Summit. When knocked out by damage from an opponent's attack, both players' colorless Pokemon give 1 less prize card. So now non-EX colorlesses give no prize cards, and EX colorlesses give 1, and the Megas give 2. Which is decent, but again you can just get rid of it by slapping down another stadium, and pretty much every deck in the format is playing stadiums. Legendary Lava Lake is the one that a lot of players are hyping up. Evolution Pokemon in play, both yours and your opponent's, have no abilities. This is very, very strong because it's not just limited to Rulebox Pokemon, it's all evolution Pokemon, don't have abilities, so no Dracloaks, no trading with Zoroark. It's the strongest out of the 3, but again, the stadiums just require a little bit too much setup to get going. But I don't know, they might see play here and there. But how do Kyogre and Groudon come into this? Well, again, they both have an attack that does additional effects if you have a legendary stadium in play. For Kyogre, it's Savage Whirlpool for 2 water and a colorless, does 100 damage, but if there is a stadium in play with legendary in its name, his attack also does 50 damage to each of your opponent's benched Pokemon. Very, very strong, and we have the new Misty supporter card that can easily just attach a whole bunch of energy onto Kyogre at the cost of ending your turn, so you have to do it next turn, but it's still a very powerful card, and you can just do a massive amount of bench damage, and also a pretty decent amount of damage to an active Pokemon. You could probably set up your opponent to get KO'd on the next turn if they don't evolve everything, if you're up against an evolution deck, or if you're up against an EX deck, I guess you could set yourself up for a massive 6 prize turn later on in the game. And then with Groudon, it's Savage Ground for 2 fighting and a colorless. If there is a stadium in play with legendary in its name, his attack does 170 more damage and its base damage is 100 for 270 damage. And again, this thing can very easily be powered up with stuff like Mega Lucario. I guess this could be a pretty good 1 prize attacker in that deck. So you could use Aura Jab, power up a Groudon, bring it into the active and do 270 damage. But again, you need a legendary stadium in play, so it does require some setup for, I guess, a pretty decent payoff. Especially with something like Kyogre, you could play the ability locking stadium and then just sweep out your opponent's board. or maybe you could play the Healing Stadium and just like try and keep it alive, I suppose. They are pretty decent, and if we get more legendary stadiums in the future, they could possibly be played as well. Next up, a Wishy-Washy EX with its Ocean Gain. You may use this ability once during your turn. If this Pokemon is in the active spot, heal 50 damage from this Pokemon. So if you have the Ocean Stadium in play, it will heal 100 instead, and then its attack Hydro Splash for free water and the cost is 220 damage. I imagine this thing would probably see plays like, I guess, a stall deck. You play stuff like a bunch of healing cards and just sit on this thing and just constantly heal it so he doesn't die and just hit your opponent a whole bunch until you win. Problem being, some decks can one-shot this thing very, very easily. It only has 260 HP, but I guess with some HP boosting stuff, it could be good. We'll just have to wait and see, but it's interesting as like probably a good stall deck. Well, not really a stall deck, but just like a wall deck because you can just constantly heal it. But again, you do need that stadium in play to get that additional heal. Next up, Raikou is its Gather Lightning for 1 Lightning Energy. If you go first, you can use this attack during your first turn. Search your deck for a Lightning Energy card and attach it to this Pokemon. So you could attach for turn and then just get another Lightning for next turn, so it's a lot easier to use its actual attack. Power Rush for 2 Lightning and a Colress, 200 damage, flip a coin, Tails. This Pokemon can't attack during your next turn. That's not really much of a downside because you can just retreat into something else and then like use that Pokemon's attack, or maybe like retreat and then switch and all that kind of stuff, and then you can do it again. It seems decent, though the downside of not being able to attack next turn could be a bit of an issue, but it's an okay card, I guess. It's very good at powering itself up. Next up we have the Genies, Thundurus, Tornadus, Landorus, and Enamorus. They all share the same ability, Incarnate Union, where if you have all of them in play, you ignore all colorless energy and the costs used by these Pokemon. So for Thundurus, 1 Lightning and 2 colorless, so if you have all of them in play, it's only 1 Lightning. Does 90 damage and you ignore all effects of your opponent's active Pokemon for this attack's damage. It's alright, it's kind of like a shred, if you know what I mean, and you also ignore all effects and everything like that. It's okay. Enamorus for 2 Psychic and 2 colorless, so 2 Psychic if you have all of them in play, does 100 damage. And if your opponent's active Pokemon is a Pokemon EX, it does 100 more damage for 200. A bit better, and there's a lot of stuff in the format that's weak to Psychic, so you can one-shot some things pretty easily, I guess. Landorus for a Fighting and 2 colorless, Gaia Crush, 110 damage, discard a Stadium in play, so you can, I don't know, get rid of an annoying Stadium if you don't play your own Stadiums, and 110 damage is alright. And then we have Tornadus, which requires 3 colorless, so it would actually require no energy at all, does 70 damage, and then you can draw until you have 6 cards in your hand. I'd say Tornadus and Enamorus are probably the best out of the 4. The only issue is you need all of them in play, and they also all require different energy types, so it can be a bit awkward trying to get them powered up. But like, they're okay, I suppose. It just seems like a bit of a weird concept, but I mean, they're pretty decent. Next up, a Mega Golurk EX with its Power Limiter. This Pokemon can't attack unless you have 10 or more cards in your hand. A pretty weird stipulation. And this attack for 2 Psychic does 300 damage, but also does 30 damage to itself. I guess you're supposed to play this with cards that stop abilities, like that could be good. Like the Stadium stops evolution abilities, and this is an evolution, so you just ignore the idea of needing 10 or more cards in your hand. You can just smack for 300 damage. You do put 30 damage on yourself, which does put you in range of other cards. It just seems like a bit of a weird cost, because how are you supposed to fulfill this condition? I guess you could play it with like Alakazam, but Alakazam is just good on its own. It doesn't need other attackers. Just a bit strange, but like, it does good damage, I suppose, if you're able to pull it off. But it just seems a bit of a weird stipulation for a card like this. And next up, Mega Malamar kind of isn't much better for 2 Dark Psychic Marionettes. This attack does 70 damage for each of your opponent's benched Pokemon. So your opponent has no benched Pokemon and you don't do any damage. 3 Dark Eerie Pulse for 200 damage. Your opponent's active Pokemon is now confused. You can just do better stuff with other Dark Pokemon. Like for example, Mega Darkrai. You can just use Dark Bell to confuse your opponent's active. And for 3 Dark, just instantly knock it out. And its other attack is 2 Dark, and if it has damage on it, it does more. Now that's just better than Malamar. They could have done so much more with this card as well. Like they could have played into like the mind control themes, where like it like stops your opponent's Pokemon from attacking, or like it has an ability that confuses your opponent's active. Like that could have been good, but we have this instead, and it's not that good. Next up, Komodo. I believe this hasn't had a new card since Cosmic Eclipse. Its ability Scale Beat. Once during your turn, you may look at the top 6 cards of your deck. and attach any number of basic energy cards you find there to your dragon Pokemon in any way you like. It's pretty good at accelerating out a bunch of energy onto your dragon type Pokemon. It's also not hard once per turn, so if you have multiple, you can look at a whole bunch of cards in your deck and get a whole bunch of energy into play. I'm not really sure what you would pair this with, maybe something later on down the line, but it is a pretty decent card at what it does. Next up is a new baby Pokemon, and a Pokemon I believe also hasn't had a new card in quite a while, Azurill. For 0 energy, it's charge, search your deck for an energy card attached to one of your bench Pokemon, and that's it. It's pretty decent. Gets you an extra energy for the turn. In the early game it can be pretty good, especially if you've been like item locked by a Badoo and you're struggling to like get through your deck, but you can get your attackers set up, all that kind of stuff. It is a baby Pokemon and it is pretty low HP, so later on in the game it's probably just an easy knockout for your opponent, but it is a pretty decent card overall. Next up, Altaria with its Cotton Carrier. Your basic Pokemon in play have no retreat cost. Latias is rotating next year, so I'd suppose this is supposed to be the replacement for it, but it itself doesn't have free retreat, and it can't give free retreat to itself, so you're still gonna have to put something like an air balloon or an energy on this thing to retreat it if your opponent brings it up. It's a bit strange, but I guess it could be a replacement for Latias instead of basic heavy decks later on down the line when it eventually rotates. Next up, Kecleon with its colourful whip. Reveal any number of Pokemon in your hand. This attack does 30 damage for each type of Pokemon you revealed in this way. There are quite a few decks in the format that play multiple different types of Pokemon, and especially like Toolbox, Terra Box type Pokemon, this card could actually be pretty good in those as a one prize attacker. You reveal a Teal Mask, a Wellspring, you reveal itself, because colourless is a type, maybe like Fighting type, a Dark type, no, there you go, you're hitting 150 damage just from revealing 5 Pokemon. And with the inherent support we have for colourless Pokemon, with stuff like Glass Trumpet, it could see play as a pretty good one prize attacker inside of like, Toolbox decks. And then we have the cover card of the set and the main talking point, because this card is a very mixed bag, being Mega Rayquaza. It's Champion Raw. When you play this Pokemon from your hand onto your bench during your turn, you may use its abilities, look at the top 4 cards of your deck and attach a basic energy you find there to itself, then put the remaining cards on the bottom of the deck. And then its attack for a Fire, Lightning and a colourless Storm Emeralda. This attack does 50 damage times the number of Fire and Lightning energy attached to all of your Pokemon in play. So the main talking point of this card is what do you pair it with? Because we do have quite a few options for Lightning and Fire like energy acceleration. We have stuff like Electric Dynamotor that was played with this card back in the Black and White era, being able to attach a lightning energy from your discard, but the Rayquaza back then discarded energy for its attack. People have been saying you can play it with Iono's Belly Bolt, because Iono's Belly Bolt has the ability to attach as much lightning energy as you want onto your Iono's Pokemon, so you still need to power up itself. There's also, as I mentioned before, Oricorio EX, but that requires you to have a Fire Mega, and it can only attach Fire energy onto Fire Megas. There's also Fire Breather to search out, again, 7 Fire energies. I think the best partner for this is probably Magmortar, with its Inferno Fandango, letting you attach as much fire energy as you want from your hand onto your Pokemon. So you could Fire Breather for 7 fires, attach 2 of them onto Mega Rayquaza, maybe some onto another Mega Rayquaza or a different Pokemon, attach your Lightning, and there you go. You're pretty much ready to go. Or you could use something like, I don't know, a Crispin, I guess. It just seems like it needs other cards to work, obviously. And I do think Emboar is probably the best partner for it, but we'll have to wait and see what Japan cooks up as the weeks go on of this card's and this set's release, I guess. It's like the card does seem good on paper, but it just needs something else to get itself going. I mean, if you look at the top 4 and you do get an energy, then, you know, it's a bit more acceleration because you also still have your energy attachment for turn. But for now, we'll just have to see how it goes, because it's also pretty frail. 280 HP, it can very easily be one-shot by a lot of stuff in the format. And then the final Pokemon to talk about is Talonflame EX with its Excite Dive. If this Pokemon is in your hand and you have a colourless Mega Pokemon in play, so Mega Rayquaza, we also have Mega Kangaskhan, you may use this ability, put this Pokemon onto the bench. So you can just bench it without needing to evolve it. It basically becomes a 280 HP basic EX Pokemon. And its attack for 2 colourless Claw Hunt does 150 damage. You may search your deck for up to 2 cards and put them into your hand. Pretty decent at searching out anything you may need, and with the lack of hand disruption in the format, you know, those cards are going to stick around, but if you do knock out Summit, then you might be under the, you know, fear of getting reset stamped or whatever. It also does have free retreat, which is pretty decent. You know, just a Pokemon you can slap down if you have a Colorless Mega, and it has free retreat. That's pretty good. It's a pretty good card. And now for trainers, items, supporters, and tool cards. We have Delicious Rice Balls. Heal 30 damage from your active Pokemon. Heal 30 more damage for each Delicious Rice Balls in your discard pile, not including this card. So the more copies of this you play, the more healing gets done. I guess you could play it as a replacement to Jumbo Ice Cream, but you could also play Jumbo Ice Cream inside of like decks that want to heal a whole bunch off of your Pokemon to get out of range. It's an okay card. We also have Custom Vest. The Pokemon this card is attached to, excluding any Mega Pokemon, takes 60 less damage from your opponent's Mega Pokemon EX's attacks. And given that we don't really have many Mega decks actually seeing play, except stuff like Lucario and Greninja and Excadrill, it's a bit situational. Maybe it could be played as a one-of, you know, to get you out of range of those types of attacks. But I don't know, it just seems a bit situational, to be honest. I mean, it's a decent if we get a Mega focused format, but for right now, we don't really have that. There's also a Mega Rayquaza Cap. So this tool gives an attack to your Pokemon. It gives a Delta Gift. For a colorless, each of your Pokemon in play that has Mega Rayquaza Cap attached to it, search your deck for a basic energy and attach it onto that Pokemon. I guess it's supposed to be a way of accelerating energy out for Mega Rayquaza, but you need to have the card attached to a Pokemon, and then you use it to get basic energies out. But there's just better ways of getting energy into play. I mean, it's alright. It's just adding extra steps, I guess, because you have to waste your attack to get powered up, and then your opponent could just knock it out, and then the energy's gone. It's a bit strange. It's just adding extra steps to something that just could have been better, if you know what I mean. Next up is Orane. Arune, I don't know. Search your deck for up to 3 supporter cards or stadium cards in any combination, and put them into your hand. A supporter that can search supporters and stadiums, I mean, that's pretty good. You could search one of each of the legendary stadiums and then a supporter for follow-up next turn. It's pretty decent, could be played as a one-of inside of a couple of decks. Another card that could probably be played as a one-of inside of a few decks is Zinnia's Trust. Switch your active Pokemon with one of your bench Pokemon. If you do, move 1 energy from your previous active Pokemon to the new Pokemon. So it's not only a switch, but also an energy switch, which is pretty good. Not only can you move out the active Pokemon, but if you're like running low on energy and you've got energy on another Pokemon that you want to put on this Pokemon, you can easily just switch in that new Pokemon and move the energy on, and it could help fix a couple of situations where, again, you're trying to power up a certain Pokemon, but you run out of energies to attach, or the energies are on a different Pokemon. Again, it could be played as a one-of inside of some decks, because that type of situation does come up in some instances where you're trying to power up a certain Pokemon, but you just don't have the time or the resources to do it. Like, I can think of a couple of examples where this card would come up, and I imagine it will probably see play as a one-of inside of a couple of decks. And that is it for this set. There are 2 other supporters and a couple of other stuff to talk about, but I don't think they're really worth it. The 2 supporters are genuinely terrible. Like, I don't think they will ever see play. So overall, this set, I mean, it's decent. It does have some good stuff in it. It's just a case of trying to figure out how they would like work together or what they could work with. Mega Rayquaza is the big one, trying to figure out what its best partner is, how to play it, what's the best way to play it. Magmortar's pretty good. It depends what Electivire you want to play it with, or if we get any others in the future. A couple of good supporter cards here and there that would mainly be played as a one-of. Komodo is good, but again, it just needs to find out what's the best partner for it. Bug Out seems decent, but it just needs a little bit more support, I guess. Same with Heat Rotom, it's good. What do you partner it with? And then Gliscor is a pretty good card, and then just other stuff here and there that's just mid or not really worth it. So that is Storm Emeralda. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, what you think about this set, what you're going to be picking up from this set. Are you looking forward to any full arts, illustration rares, secret rares coming from this set? What are you hoping gets the illustration rare, secret art treatment? Are you going to be building anything from this set like Mega Rayquaza? I imagine Mega Rayquaza will probably become the new Mega Greninja because it's a fan favourite, so people will want to play it and try to make it work, but I don't know if it will be good. We'll just have to wait and see. Like, with the right setup, it could be very strong, but it just needs another Pokemon and more support to actually make it work. Again, I think Inferno Fandango Embo is the best partner for it, because you can just, rare candy or evolve into an Embo, use Fire Breather, get 7 fire energies, slap them all on, attach your lightning, and there you go. You can smack at your opponent for as much damage as you need to do. But let me know your thoughts in the comments, what you think about this set and the cards in general. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, all of that nonsense. Any and all support is greatly appreciated, and you take care.